Greetings, brothers, and welcome. And today, we are discussing about the poor lore excuse of 40k, which that will be headcanon. Headcanon is a fan's interpretation of the lore, which you can also call it fanfiction, until otherwise. Usually, when people use headcanon, it's for those who try to fill the gaps or try to gather the pieces of the puzzle and come into its own conclusions. Now, that's ideally speaking, of course, but that's not what happens with the 40k fans. You see... ad time. Come back here, you little fuck! You will watch this ad, and you're gonna fucking like it! Welcome, brothers. If you want to support me, here are my platforms so your name will be in the Hall of Fame. Or you can join my social platforms like my Discord, where I'm highly active. And finally, if you haven't done so, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. Or if you hate me, leave a comment and a dislike. I know you skip this ad and you will get shot. Heretic. And let's get back to the video. Let me explain how does a normal fan use headcanon and how does a 40k fan uses headcanon. Because remember, a 40k fan is a lower IQ of room temperature. Let's go with Doom Eternal, right? There are some things in the game where it was never answered, like how did Doomslayer just got the space station in the first place? And because of such plot, you use your headcanon based on the evidence you can gather and make the best possible conclusion. Now, in 40k fandom, it is complete opposite. You see, for the sake of argument that 40k has canon, the fem studies exist, and it's canon. Now, for a 40k fan, we'll go against that and uses headcanon that it doesn't exist. It is a coping mechanism against something that is already being officially stated by GW. And honestly, there are some comments I get from people and they say roughly the same here. It is honestly the same scenario with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. I'm your father, Luke. No, that's not true. I'm gonna use my headcanon that you know my dad. That is what I'm hearing right now. Like another scenario, right? Like imagine you losing a game from Overwatch and instead of acknowledging the loss, you immediately blame your teammates for the loss and there's nothing wrong with you whatsoever. Nah. That is what headcanon is, but in the 40k fandom. It is a coping mechanism to avoid that is already official. Also, keep in mind, I'm not saying what GW does is correct by any means, especially with the fem studies part, and sooner or later the female space marines coming along. I am just saying, when GW says something that is official like the fem studies, I'm gonna take their word because of their Warhammer is for everyone poster, where they will represent and diversify anyone at any time. You're telling me, after doing an official animation and a 10th edition codex of the custodians with a small story about a female custodian that they're telling about, you're telling me, just because they don't have a motto, it's somehow justified in your headcanon that fem studies ain't canon? Now, that's where you're wrong. They also made a book about them as a novel, and there's models right here. Checkmate, 40k fans, GG easy. But remember fellas, I am arguing against those who are very emotional, and it's very rare to find someone who is logical and calm in mind. So, if you ever want to use headcanon and use it properly, not as a coping mechanism, remember, headcanons is a fan's interpretation of things, where there are some plots that are mystique, or just missing some bits that have not been explained as of yet. To use this in other words, headcanon is using your imagination to fill the gaps that make sense, or making the best plausible conclusion of it. That's what headcanon should be. But then again, when it comes to the 40k fans, they just emotionally argue and they just look at me and say I'm wrong, so I might as well go fuck myself, am I right? So headcanon is what engages you in such lore and fandoms in general. And it makes you think like, what is Card doing on his off time when he's tired? You know, shit like that. It's what makes theories fun. It's what makes you just think about things. It is things like that. But another issue when it comes to 40k, they will spill all of the beans to you in person and explain all the things that are meant to be mystical and leaving it as it is. And but instead everything is just fucking exposed. Everything has to be told now. Everything that is like smartly covered, that you just leave it for later. Nope, everything has to be told to you right now. Everything. The Emperor, somehow the Alexander the Great. Horus, yeah, he was just a little bitch and went into chaos. And so many more, man. It's just... man, Horus Heresy is a mess with itself. All these mistakes, all these plots, that everything that is being explained, there is no point of view in using headcanon when the answer's already there. And I already spilled the beans, but I'll say this again. A good example is the Horus Heresy. The Horus Heresy is meant to be this mystical backstory about 40k, where you only get little bits and pieces that made 40k what is made today. And that's what it was in the early days. 40k was a big game back then, but once it started to become less mystical and everything explained to you from the novels, about 52 books and all that, plus with the fucking Siege of Terror series, you know everything about the Primarchs and the rest. And now you're just more gravitated to the Horus Heresy than 40k itself. Ironically, Horus Heresy became a bigger player than 40k, when that was not what the Horus Heresy should have been. It was a backstory that should have been a mystical thing that nobody knew about, but for some reason, the Black Library authors and GW was like, oh yeah, let's just throw it out there and see what happens. Yeah, thanks, man. I am so greatly happy that you just did that and just ruined the IP as well. Oh, thanks, man. So everything is explained, and I do mean everything. Like, what is the point of using headcanon? If you're artistic enough, you would know everything. You would go in every book. Like, for example, the Pontius has already solved many mysteries about 40k, as in Horus Heresy, and your questions have been answered. So there's no point of using headcanon. So this is why, whenever I see someone saying, oh, anyways, I'm gonna use my headcanon against something that is already official and it's already like a fucking coping mechanism, and tries to ignore something that is already being stated. I am your father, Luke. No, I'm gonna use my headcanon so you ain't my dad. Fuck you talking about, bitch. And honestly, that is partly the big problem when it comes to 40k lore. Because one of the issues that has come is that if 40k is canon or not, and parts of the community are like that. And that's already an issue because, for one, Warhammer's for Everyone says that GW wants to do whatever it wants, and Black Library authors that are responsible and write your books say canon is a fallacy. Especially when you have Lewitton saying 40k is not canon, but he supports the idea and says how it's good, and the reader or the writers can think whatever they want. And if they want to ignore something, they can, because that is the beauty of making shit up. And that is the problem, where you have this divide of the community to figure out which one is canon or not, or just trying to make their own little headcanons of which one was the real 40k or which one was the not 40k. What I'm saying is it makes them like a fucking mess. And because it's such a mess, you still have the current Black Library authors that said so that 40k is not canon. Well, they're still writing your books and writing whatever they want, and you guys will still buy it. That is not good. You need things that have to be established and have a good ground foundations, or else, what the fuck is the point of getting a 40k book, as an example? And I've made a couple videos about the topic, even about why 40k is not canon from the start, and you can go check it out. So I'll wrap it up in this video. If you want to use headcanon, use it properly. Do not use it as a coping mechanism when something is already official and you're just making shit up that you think it's not canon. Because at that point, all you're doing is just making fan fiction. That's all it is, it's fan fiction. Do not come tell me like, oh, the Primaris in my headcanon are not canon, so I'm gonna still doing 40k shit. Well, already by that, with that attitude, that's already a problem. So use headcanons properly, do not fucking use them. And then at that point, I was just gonna say, oh, using fanfiction, instead of using proper headcanon. Anyways, I'll leave it here in this video. Remember to check my socials where I'm highly active on Discord and my donations all combined. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye, my brothers, and take care.